As the greatest beneficiary of globalization, Asia continues to take an important cue from the broader global environment. With the world economy in its most wrenching crises in 75 years, that cue is more daunting than ever before. The origins of this crisis will long be debated, as the world still grapples with the wrenching aftershocks of what was initially billed as America's subprime crisis. It is entirely premature to render a definitive verdict on the hows and whys of this mess. Suffice it to say, the financial crisis that began in earnest in 2008 was the outgrowth of a confluence of failures, including massive risk management mistakes on Wall Street, egregious errors by rating agencies, staggering lapses of regulatory oversight, a politicization of the home ownership and mortgage boom, and the search for returns by yield-hungry investors on Main Street. The most serious failure, in my view, was that of central banks. That's especially the case with America's ideologically driven Federal Reserve, led by market libertarians who condoned an insidious succession of asset bubbles and ignored its regulatory responsibility in an era of unprecedented financial engineering and excess leverage. The main thesis of this chapter is that this is not just a financial crisis. The excesses in the financial markets were so extreme they ended up infecting the real side of the global economy. Nowhere was that more evident than in the United States, where asset-dependent consumers drew extraordinary support from the confluence of property and credit bubbles. In the second half of 2008, in the aftermath of the bursting of those twin bubbles, the American consumer pulled back more severely than at any point in the post-World War II era. Yet, that correction left the consumption share of GDP at a still elevated 71% in late 2008. Down only 1 percentage point from its record 72% high in early 2007, and 4 percentage points above the pre-bubble norm of 67% that prevailed from 1975 to 2000. With personal debt ratios still excessive and saving rates far too low, there is good reason to believe that there is more to come in what looks to be a multi-year adjustment for the U.S. consumer. If mean reversion is in the offing for a post-bubble U.S. consumer, and if that mean is close to the pre-bubble norm of the consumption share of U.S. GDP, then only about 20% of the correction has occurred. As America has entered a major post-bubble shakeout, so too has the rest of an interconnected world. It's not just the cross-border linkages of trade flows that have been shocked by the capitulation of the world's largest consumer. Liquidity-driven asset bubbles have burst everywhere, from emerging market equities to most segments of the global commodity market. The pitfalls of a post-bubble world are especially daunting for an externally led Asian economy. Lacking dynamism from its main source of external demand, the U.S. consumer, Asia faces two distinct possibilities: slower growth or the imperatives of uncovering new sources of growth. Since the latter option takes time to implement, I conclude that the Asian growth dynamic is likely to be a good deal slower in the years ahead than the 7% growth pace that has been realized since the turn of the century. For now, I would pencil in about 5% growth in pan-regional GDP for developing Asia over the next 3 to 5 years. A similar downshift is likely to be in the offing for the global economy, notwithstanding the massive policy stimulus that has been injected into the system. America's multi-year consumer retrenchment will provide stiff headwinds to global growth for quite some time. In that important respect, policy stimulus will be pushing on a string, leading to something resembling a Japanese-like outcome for a post-bubble world economy. There will be no V-shaped recovery from this global recession. When it comes in earnest, probably at some point in 2010, the rebound in world economic growth is likely to be unusually anemic.